Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be sharing test taking strategies so my 4th grade students can do their best on the upcoming SBAC and spring iReady exams. But I think these strategies could help anyone do their best on any test, so I hope that everyone will enjoy the video. Let's go ahead and get started. Throughout the video, I'm going to be showing you questions that have been released by SBAC, that's Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium. And these items are all available online. Just go to Google, type in SBAC release questions, and you'll be able to find questions for your grade level in any of the topics that you're interested in reviewing before the exam. The first strategy I want you to use when you're taking a test is to always read the question first. Usually when you're taking a reading test, you're going to have a very long passage on one side, and then you're going to have the question on the other side of the screen. And sometimes you will get lucky and you can actually answer the question without reading the passage at all. This is an example of that kind of question. So without even reading this extremely long passage, I'm just going to go straight to the question. It says, read the sentences from the passage. Finally, I saw Jose. I ran over and almost collapsed. What does the use of the word collapsed suggest? Well, I know that the word collapsed means that someone fell over, and I can also tell from the context that the author is running. And so I'm going to guess that he's collapsing because he's very tired. So let's go ahead and take a look at our choices. Choice A says Matthew is noisy. Someone wouldn't really fall over because they were noisy, so I'm going to eliminate that choice. Choice B says Matthew is very helpful. People don't collapse or fall over because they're helpful. Matthew feels cheerful. Again, people don't really fall over because they feel really cheerful or happy. And then I come to choice D. Matthew feels very tired. That's the right choice here. When people fall over, it's usually because they're extremely tired. And I also have that context clue that the author was running. And so without using my time, without using my effort to read this long story, I was able to choose the correct answer to the question. So that's one reason you should always read the question first, because sometimes you'll get lucky, you'll be able to answer the question without looking at the passage. That's not always the case. Sometimes you won't be able to answer the question without looking at the passage, but you should still read the question first. And the reason why is because when you read the question first, it helps you know what do you need to pay attention to in the passage. Again, this passage is extremely long, so if I know exactly where to look for certain information, it can save me a lot of time and a lot of effort. It would take me a very long time to decode this entire passage, and so if I can save a little time, save a little bit of my energy, then I want to do that. So let's take a look at this question. It says, what happens after Matthew and Jose open the umbrellas? And so what I want to do is I want to find the part in this passage where Matthew and Jose open their umbrellas, and then I want to see what happens exactly after that. So I'm going to scan or skim, and I'm looking for, umbrellas, Matthew, Jose. And here we go. So it says right here, Jose and I quickly pulled out 2 large umbrellas from the family's truck. Jose helped me carry the big umbrellas back to our space, so they haven't opened them yet. We had to go slowly, being careful not to bump into anyone. The market had opened for business and it was already crowded. We arrived just in time. As we opened the umbrellas, so the umbrellas are open, the few drops of rain began to turn into a steady drizzle. So the thing that happens right after they open their umbrellas is that it begins to rain. We come back to the question, what happens after Matthew and Jose open the umbrellas? Choice A, the rain begins to fall. And so I'm going to go ahead and select that answer. And again, I did need to do some reading, but by reading the question first, I was able to really focus on the area of the passage that was going to be the most helpful. If you don't read the question first, looking for the answer can kind of feel like looking for a needle in a haystack. And that's actually going to take me to my second strategy. My second strategy is to use context to help you understand what's happening. When I said a needle in a haystack, that's an example of an idiom. An idiom is a phrase that is not meant literally. It has a figurative meaning, and it's specific to the language in which it's used, in this case, English. Context is all the sentences around the idiom. There are thousands of idioms, and the people who make these tests do not expect you to know the meaning of thousands of idioms. What they do expect you to be able to do is to look at the context, look at all the information and all the sentences surrounding the idiom, and use that to help you figure out what does the idiom mean. So let's go ahead and take a look at the context of this idiom. Miss Noel told us to read the question before we read the passage to help us focus and find the right information quickly. If you don't read the question first, trying to find the right answer can be like looking for a needle in a haystack. What is the meaning of the idiom, looking for a needle in a haystack? Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is imagine a needle. And then I want you to imagine a haystack. And I want you to think, if you were looking for a needle in a haystack, would it be very easy to find the needle, or would it be difficult? Hopefully you said it would be difficult, because a needle is incredibly small and a haystack is huge, and so it would take a really long time to find that needle in a haystack. So with that in mind, let's take a look at our choices. What is the meaning of the idiom, looking for a needle in a haystack? It means looking for something that is difficult to find. This feels like a good choice to me, because if you're looking for an answer but you haven't read the question yet, I said it was going to be difficult to find that answer. So this feels like a good choice. Choice B says looking for something that is easy to find. Well, again, we have to go back to the context. I had said that if you don't read the question first, then trying to find the right answer can be like looking for a needle in a haystack. I'm saying that if you don't read the question first, it's going to be really hard to find the answer. And so choice B is actually saying the opposite of what is true. And so for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and eliminate choice B. Choice C says looking for something that is sharp. This answer is looking at the idiom in a way that is literal, because a needle is literally sharp. We don't want to look at idioms in a literal way. We want to look at them in a figurative way. And so for that reason, I am going to go ahead and eliminate choice C. Choice D says trying to learn how to sew. It's looking at the idiom in a very literal way. You use a needle to literally sew. The idioms aren't literal, they're figurative. And so for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and eliminate choice D, which means that the answer I thought it was, choice A, is the correct answer. Looking for a needle in a haystack means you're looking for something that's difficult to find. And the strategy that I just showed you can also be used if you're asked to find the meaning of a single word. So let's take a look at a question like that. The directions say to read the sentences and choose the correct meaning of each underlined word. So, number 1, when the students acted silly, their teacher told them, "You are full of jabberwocky today." The makers of the test do not expect you to know what Jabberwocky is. That is an old-fashioned term. People don't usually use it today, but what you are supposed to do is look at the rest of the sentences and figure out from the clues, what does Jabberwocky mean? So we know that the students were acting silly, and then their teacher told them that they were full of Jabberwocky. So our first choice is water. And let's just kind of trade out water for Jabberwocky and see if it makes sense. You're full of water today. That doesn't really make sense. It would make sense if the kids were all asking to use the bathroom, that they were full of water, but that's not what it says. It says the students were acting silly. So I'm going to go ahead and eliminate choice A, water. Choice B is nonsense. Non is a prefix and it means not sense. It doesn't make sense. And if the kids are acting silly, nonsense matches with that word, because being silly, not making sense, those are ideas that match. So I'm going to keep nonsense as a good choice, but I want to look at the other choices just in case. Choice C says food. So you are full of food today. Again, that doesn't really make sense. If the kids were complaining about stomach aches, then it would make sense that they were full of food, but that's not what the context says. The context says that the students are acting silly. And so I'm going to go ahead and eliminate choice C. And choice D is good ideas. So you are full of good ideas today. It just doesn't make sense with the context. If it said the students were acting intelligent, or if it said the students were acting smart, then it would make sense to say they're full of good ideas. But that's not what the context says. The context says they're acting silly. And so good ideas does not make sense as a meaning for the word Jabberwocky. So the idea that we thought was correct, nonsense, is the correct answer. You're full of nonsense today. You're full of Jabberwocky. And that is what Jabberwocky means. It means nonsense. So by using the context, we were able to identify the meaning of the word. And we also used my third strategy. My third strategy is using the process of elimination. The process of elimination is what we just did. We eliminated all of the choices that didn't make sense until the only choice that was left was the correct answer. Let's take a look at how that works on a math problem. The problem says to choose a fraction for the shaded part. And we have a circle that has 6 pieces, and 2 of the pieces are shaded with lavender. And my initial reaction is, okay, it's 2 over 6. That's the fraction for the shaded part. But 2 over 6 is not one of my choices. So I'm going to go through and use the process of elimination to get rid of all the answers that don't make sense. And hopefully I'm left with just one that does make sense. So my first choice is 1/2, 1 over 2. And I know that this is not right because I know what half of a circle looks like. I would need this piece to be shaded in order for 1/2 to be the right answer. And this piece is unshaded, so I'm going to go ahead and eliminate choice A. Choice B is 6 over 6, and that's not correct because only 2 of the 6 pieces have been shaded in. So I know that that one is not correct either. Choice C is 1 over 3, and I don't know that this one is correct or incorrect. It's divided into 6 pieces, so I'm a little confused that I see a number 3 there. I'm not ready to eliminate it yet because I'm not sure it's wrong. I'm going to hop over to choice D, and choice D is 0. And I know that that's wrong because we're choosing a fraction for the shaded part, and I can see that 2 pieces are shaded, so it makes no sense to say that 0 of the pieces are shaded. I also know that if you have a numerator of 0 over any denominator, the whole fraction will be equal to 0. But again, since 2 pieces have been shaded in, it can't be 0. So I am going to go ahead and eliminate choice D. So this is how process of elimination works. Basically, I don't know why C is the correct choice, but I know that A, B, and D were the wrong choices. And so because this is the only choice that's left, this has to be the correct answer. And if you're curious why it is the correct answer, it's because of equivalent fractions. The same way that 3 over 6 is equal to 1/2, 1 over 3 is going to be equal to 2 over 6. They are fractions that are equivalent. They have the same value, even though they have different numbers. Some other strategies you might consider using are getting a good night's sleep the night before an exam. It's important to go to bed early so that your brain can be well rested the morning of an important test. You should also eat breakfast the morning of a big test. I know that in our school cafeteria, you're always offered fresh fruit, cereal, and milk in the mornings. So consider getting to school early and making time for breakfast on the day of SBAC and iReady so that you're not distracted by feeling hungry when you're trying to focus on an exam. Neither SBAC nor iReady have a time limit, so you can have as much time as you need. If you need more time, just ask for it. You can also take breaks during both tests. I know that it's hard to sit for hours and stare at a computer screen, so if you need to stand up and stretch, I'm okay with that. Just let me know. During iReady, if you need to take a walk up and down the hallway, I'm okay with that too. On the math portion of the exams, please use your scratch paper. You can use that scratch paper to write out a problem, line up your ones, tens, and hundreds and thousands columns, do your regrouping, and you can also draw pictures of word problems that can help make it clearer what operation you want to use to find a solution. Always double check your work. You can go back and use opposite operations to check your calculations in math. And in reading, you can just reread and make sure that you have selected the answer that you're the most happy with for each question. I hope that you have learned some test-taking strategies that will help you do your best on SBAC, iReady, or any exam that you might be getting ready to take. That's all that I have for you today, but I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.